Okay, perfect. So Michelle, can you just introduce yourself a little bit for us and talk about your time with the Human Dimensions of Organizations program?
My name is Michelle Jack, and I am a graduate of 2018 of Human Dimensions of Organizations Master's Program. What it meant to me, and I've said this to anyone who will listen to me, quite frankly, is I think that folks, whenever they're really choosing their next higher education, they would really want to consider this. And especially for those who have a more disciplined background. So example, engineering or finance or, things like that, because there's a human dimension, right, to us all. And the aspects that are taught in the more what I call technical programs is not really as defined. There's a couple of courses, that you may have to take a psychology or sociology, but you don't really get into what does that really mean and how does that affect your communication, your leadership, your persuasion, how you persuade people, how you think of different people and their stories and how to communicate more effectively with them. And so for Human Dimensions of Organizations, for me, being an alum of the business school, and then being in operations, after being in finance for a while and then operations, it provided not just the black and white context where I had learned and worked, for 20 plus years, but really just the shades of gray and even some of those colors in between, and even colors that are so unique that you only see it once, right? And you can celebrate that. And to me, I think that's the beauty of the program, that it allows, that ability to see things from a different lens and filter than anything you've ever seen.
Yeah, that's so great to hear. And what are you doing now with your career?
So I'm consulting right now. So I also coach folks on executive leadership, and I love it because I use what I do, what I learned in HDO every single day. Right? There's always some conflict, right? There's always some maybe lack of transparency. Maybe we're making decisions out of fear. What is driving that? Maybe there's a sharing that needs to happen, or trust that needs to be built, and different things like that. Maybe there's a way to persuade. I talk about persuasion, and that's a really big thing that we learned in Human Dimensions, because there's so many different ways that you can communicate and persuade with other people. The other thing is just creating this environment of change. So many times, I hear change management. Oh, it sounds terrible. It's not change management. When you're doing a change management, it's like you're doing this checklist, right?
Right.
Right? We don't like checklists, right? We don't like them. So how do you create that environment of change? And HDO helps you understand that. And I love to give this example, and even Art has talked about my example before. When I was a vice president of facilities management communication of a very large organization, the same one that I was the project manager for the third largest building in the United States. We were in charge of the environmental, and we were trying to figure out how to get people to recycle earplugs. I know that sounds simple, so they throw them on the floor, it would get in the water system. I mean, it was just a mess. And so, we looked at where were we placing these recycling locations? Well, where they dispense them is not where they were putting them to be recycled. So let's put them in the same area. So they're thinking, right? Here's their environment. They're getting them here and they're disposing of them here. Doesn't that make sense? If they're walking from a building that's very loud and they have to wear ear protection, when they walk out and it's quiet, that's an environmental trigger to them. Hey, it's time to take these out. Oh, look, here's a recycle bin right here. Mm-hmm. And so instead of putting rules and signs and, arrows pointing and everything else like that, stop. Create the environment for the behavior that you're looking for, and then the behavior happens. So that's what the difference between creating an environment of change and change management, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So in your opinion, what is the biggest obstacle or obstacles holding women back from true equality, whether it just be in the world or in the workplace today?
So I looked at the word equality, right? Just to make sure that I understood, what that definition was. And it's really kind of having the opportunities and different things like that that's, more equal, right? And, we all have passions, we all have skills, we all have filters and experiences. We have, future ambitions, and things like that. So how can you distill that into equality? I just really, really struggle with it because to me, we're all so unique. Every individual is unique, male or female, it doesn't matter, right? We're all unique. And at the end of the day, at the basis of all of this, we're human. So I think part of this is not thinking of everything as male and female. I really think so. We are just people, we're humans. Each one of us have loved ones, right? Each one of us has family and friends. Each one of us has maybe something that's challenging in their life or some great opportunity in their life. Maybe they're struggling with mental issues and things. You don't know what everybody is dealing with. So at the end of the day, rather than worry about something that may or may not be there, right? It could be just a perception, our own perception, if we can just think about each other as humans, right? Just humans. Human dimensions of organizations, we're all, at the end of the day, we're all just humans.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not male or female or race or religion or nationally driven. It's just all human beings.
The blood pumping through our veins, our feelings get hurt, right? Our hearts hurt for people or ourselves, right?
Yeah.
And if we just consider that, right, rather than, oh, this is a male thing or a female thing, stop. We're humans. Let's take it, start from there.
Absolutely. So having worked in male dominated organizations and industries basically for your entire career, have you ever had to navigate a male power structure at work, and how did you do that effectively?
Well, I will say this. If you actually knew me, you would think that's a funny question because my male friends would think that I'm the one that was the power one. So, you can ask them. I can give you references.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, navigating the male power, whatever, bring your own power, right? We all have that superpower. I love that last question about heroes. What is your superpower, right? My superpower is, what, if there's an issue, let's sit down and talk about it. Let's figure out what's going on here. Yeah. What's the root of what's really happening here? Instead of going, oh, it's just because I'm a woman, no. Come on, what's going on? What are we doing? What are we going to do about it? And, quite frankly, if they're just an asshole, they're just an asshole. But they're women assholes too, by the way. So again, break it down to the human and just deal with the situation, right? Instead of trying to put it in some box, and say that. And, male power, now whatever. We all have our power. Use it wisely.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. Do you think that with the strides that women have made in the workplace, that the women entering the workforce in 2022 and beyond face fewer or more obstacles than they have in previous years?
I think that's a very good question. And I really thought a long time on that. And, as a woman and as a mom, and at one point a single mom, and putting myself through school and different things, again, a woman the whole time. What did that look like? And then having a career and a very taxing career, and and what does that look like to women today? The young women that I talk to today, and I don't know, it may even be you, they're waiting, right? They're waiting. They're choosing, right, not to have children. They may choose not to have any children at all. And I think what they saw was they saw their moms or whatever having to juggle work and a family and different things like that. And they don't want to have to choose. So they choose not to have children. So I'm actually worried about, our destiny as humans, because if that's what's going on, wow, that's crazy. Then we have failed them. We have failed them. Now, I'm telling you, I was not a perfect parent. I was training the whole time. I was in training.
Right.
Um, but my boys turned out, my boys, they're young men, and they have their own lives and their own one of them their own family. And
Mhm.
so, we do the best we can with what we have. And whether it's a job and family and different things like that, it's so funny when I used to think of the word work-life balance. There's no balance,
Yeah.
right? It's interwoven.
Yes.
What's the benefit is if you have that person that knows that that's what life is like, right? That's where you're working for, right? Or working with. And you know what? I'm going to have your back sometime. You're going to have my back sometime. And so I think that they didn't see that, right? And
Right.
so they're using this other thing. So I think it's a very good question. And I didn't ask you, do you have kids?
I do not know. No, but it is something that myself and a lot of my friends talk about and think about a lot, having worked so hard through undergrad, some of us also graduate programs, thinking, the timeline between me, having done all this work and then wanting to perform well at my job and advance my career and hit all my goals. And there are incredibly inspiring people, a lot of them from the H2O program, who have managed to do it all. They have taken that it's not either or, it's an and perspective, but even they will say it is very hard to do it all at once. Very often you have to, figure out how to piece it out in different segments of your
Well,
life,
I also think women tend to think that things have to be perfect. They don't.
Yeah.
Men don't think that way.
Yeah.
They're so not worried about things being perfect. But
Right.
women, you don't
Yes.
have to be the perfect mom and the perfect wife and the perfect everything. You don't. You can't. It's
Yeah.
not attainable, right? So you just have to know that some things are going to give, and you need to be okay with that, right?
Yeah.
And those
Absolutely.
are choices. Those are choices and priorities that we make. And one thing I will tell you, my son did like, because I was pregnant when I was at UT. I mean, I literally had a baby right before finals, and I told the doctor I need to have this baby on Thanksgiving so I can be back in school on Monday. So I can
Yeah.
finish my course, and they're like, I don't think this is going to happen.
Right.
Maybe on Thanksgiving, and I was back in class on Monday. I'm just telling you, and I finished my finals.
Yeah.
So the point is, it can be done, but I
Yeah.
have got to drive, right? We're all different, right? What's that drive? What's that give and take? What's that priority?
Yeah.
So I'm more afraid for the women that they're afraid that they can't do it.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
don't feel like they can.
Right.
I'm,
Yeah.
I'm actually worried for them, not because of how they're seen in the workforce. I don't think that matters at all anymore. I don't think it matters at all. I think I'm more afraid for that, quite frankly.
Yeah. Because I think especially with women's empowerment and fighting for equality, it was for so long we were just fighting for our rightful seat at the table and our rightful opportunity to be considered, for the same jobs as men, for the same titles, for the same pay. And now that we have achieved so much, we're not done. We're nowhere near to being done. It's now women are being presented with, well, if you're going to be a working mom, or if you are going to be a single working mom, or just a single woman who maybe doesn't plan to have children, those are now all different flavors and considerations in the workplace. I think, to your point, there are a lot of women who are maybe choosing not to have children because they've seen what happens to a lot of women in the workforce when they have children. When a man has a child, it's, oh my goodness, he's so dedicated and he's going to want to stay here and be promoted, for the stability and the paycheck and, financial security for his family. And a lot of women have experienced that question of, well, how long is she going to be out on maternity leave? Can we replace her? Can we, get her to come back earlier? And that's just not a level playing field for anyone. So it's making that.
Is that true?
There have been a lot of women and studies and interviews saying that they feel as though in the workplace, when they are having children, it is a much different situation. Yeah.
Is it perception, right? Or is
Oh
it
yeah.
true?
It's a perception. I think it was very, very true a long time ago. And even recently, I think it is still true in some places. And now, because of all of the equal opportunity, cases and paperwork and situations, I think it's something that companies are, they're moving towards, here are great benefits, here's how we support families, but the perception is still very different, because you have these advancements like paternity leave in addition to maternity leave, but it's still different. The perception for some reason is still very different for women.
Yeah, I didn't get that. I really didn't, right? And I've been in the workforce for a long time, again, in manufacturing. And, I did get the seat at the table, right?
Yeah.
And, I think part of this is, everyone doesn't get a trophy. They just don't. They don't. So, if you do want a seat at the table, you're going to have to work hard. It's not going to be given to you.
Right.
If you're with an organization that doesn't respect what you contribute to the organization, then you might want to check that they're aligned with your values, right? So, the managers that I've had, and, for the most part, they're men. And, if I wanted to go home early to go pick up my kid or go to a choir concert or some kind of concert or whatever, there was no question on whether or not that was something that I could do. If I had a sick kid. Now, what I do think is great is now with this whole COVID thing, thank goodness people have the opportunity to work from home, because before, working from home was difficult, right? So I think that has afforded a little bit different. Of course, I don't know how young people are trying to juggle working from home and taking care of kids and schooling. I think that's a whole thing in and of itself. But, I just think that part of this could be a perception. Is it a perception or is it reality? And, is it the easy answer? And I'm not saying that there aren't people like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And get away from them, right? Go find people who are aligned with your values and what's important to you, as a woman. And I'd say that's really the big issue there, in my opinion, obviously.
Absolutely. So going back to that question about heroes, do you have personal or professional female heroes that you've looked to in the past, and can you tell us about them?
The first thing that came to mind, and when I think heroes, I think superheroes, right? So I'm thinking Wonder Woman. And I know that sounds a little sexist because she was like almost half naked with her bracelets.
Right.
But if you remember, she came from an island of women, that women were in power, right? And so I like Wonder Woman. I'm thinking Wonder Woman is she's pretty cool there. She was able to be hot and sexy and kick ass at the same time.
Yeah.
That's a package right there.
Yeah, it is. It is, especially as all these new superhero movies are coming out and being reimagined, and even a new generation of superheroes.
What is that?
Are being written. So, we are making strides. It's later than we wanted it to be, but
I think it's great. Like I said, my biggest concern is women today think they can't have it all, right? They can only have the part. And so I think my generation has failed them somehow in not showing them that it's well worth it. So, my son is 30 and he has children, mm-hmm. and he likes it that I was young when I had him, because now, with my grandchildren, I can chase them around, throw them around, now when they take a nap, I will take a nap too, let me tell you, right? At the end of the day, right. At the end of a 7-8 hour day, I'm ready for a glass of wine and a bath, right? And someone put me to bed. But at the end of the day, the fact that I can, and I have that energy and that, that fortitude to go and do that, I like that. And he liked that I was young when he, when he was, and so he had children a little bit younger, and he likes it that, I'm able to really enjoy them. So, part of that is, what does it do to, again, the now moms, and for me, grandmas,
Mhm.
right? And I'm probably a young grandma, but still grandmas like me that, now we're kind of waiting around going, hey, where's my time?
Right. Yeah. And to your earlier point, I think, about women wanting it all and not being able or not believing that they have the ability to have it all when maybe they completely do. It is completely within their reach. I think a lot of people and women, forget that, we're fighting for equality and we want equality so that we have that freedom of choice so that women
Yeah.
can choose
Yeah.
having children is not for me, or I yes, I do want children and I also want to work. I think it's working on that idea that uh, the idea behind the fight is not that we want all women working, for their entire lives until they retire. It's we want the choice and we want it to be a guilt-free
Yeah.
choice. That's the second piece, I think.
Well, I will say, I will say as a mom, as a woman, as a mom, even if you are dropping your kids off to go have dinner with your husband and you're a stay-at-home mom, you
Mhm.
have guilt.
Oh yeah.
So, we're still women. You know what I'm saying? That is innate. That's just like, even a pet, right? If you leave the pet too long,
Mhm.
women may be
Oh
more
yeah.
so than men. Maybe not now, maybe it's not as much. And so back to the values, right? What is the company value and how are you treated? Are you treated with respect and equality or not? If you're not, leave, right? We have choices.
Yeah.
Same thing with partners, right? No matter who your partner is, your partner in life, do they share, some of those responsibilities, the pickup and the drop off and the, okay, it's your time to take care of them when they're sick, and things like that or whatever. Do you
Right.
have that partner in crime? Or do you have someone that says, oh, that's woman's work? Well, then maybe that's who you chose.
Yeah. Yes.
Don't choose that person.
Yeah.
Don't choose that person.
Right. It's I think we've proven there's a new generation of stay-at-home dads. And
Absolutely.
that's no longer the case, that it's, always the woman's job. It's there's,
That's
if,
right.
if there are two parents,
Yeah.
there's two
Yeah, there
people there.
was a story on LinkedIn, and one of the women, she took a picture of her husband laying on the floor. Their little boy was still in a bassinet, and he was laying on the floor with that little boy, and blankets all curled up
Mhm.
because he had a cough and everything else like that, and he was the one, right, laying on the floor,
Yeah.
you taking care of the baby, not her. She was the one taking the picture. So
Yeah.
times where the partner really is a partner, I think
Yeah.
is changing. And so, maybe it's less about the workforce and more about the person at home.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe it's always a consideration. Would you have any, as sort of a last little sign off, would you have any advice for young women entering the workforce today with all of these, pressures from the news and social media and, just having all of these opinions swirling around them at all times? Do you have any little kernel of advice for them?
Be yourself. Be who you are every day. Don't change because you think you should be one thing or the other. Be who you are. Show up, right?
Yeah.
Show up.
Yeah. That's great advice. Thank you so much.
All right.